All right, guys. Our next guest is a man of many talents. He is one of the most dangerous middleweights in the world, a former UFC and Strikeforce champion, a skater, a surfer, an entrepreneur. He's also killing it in the modeling world. Luke Rockhold, welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you going today?
Doing quite well. Enjoying a winter day, about 80 degrees up on the pool deck.
Oh, wow. Life doesn't get much better.
It didn't convert that over there.
I know that 80 degrees is hot. That's all I know. I like the sound of 80 degrees. I'm curious, where are you joining us, Luke? Are you still in Vegas or are you back in Santa Cruz?
No, I'm actually in LA at the moment. I had to come back down here for a little meeting, and then I'm going to head back up tomorrow and get back to work a little bit here.
Gotta ask, what's this meeting? Is this anything that might interest us?
No, nothing I'm commenting on right now. You never know, but I got some good things in the works, and so I'm just staying busy, trying to stay busy through the injury, keep my sanity.
Well, we saw you were at UFC 209, sitting in the front row with none other than Nate Diaz. We got to ask, what's it like watching fights with Nate? We imagine he would have a bunch of interesting things to say throughout the night.
Me and Nate have known each other for a long time, old NorCal boys, and it's always a good conversation.
I feel like there's almost like a buddy cop, like reality TV show in there between you and Nate Diaz. What do you think about something like that, Luke?
A what? A buddy cop? I'm not familiar.
Well, but buddy cop, like Rush Hour, like Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. It's like a clash of styles. Like you're both North Cal guys, but you're both so different. I feel like there's a reality TV show in there somewhere.
Depends on the pay. We'll see what they got.
Good answer.
Luke's not keen on it. All right, let's talk about the main event between Woodley and Wonderboy. A lot of people were very critical, saying it was too tactical. What did you think? You were ringside. What was your takeaway?
It was a rough one to watch. Obviously, it was in the last fight, and Wonderboy's got a different kind of. It obviously wasn't the most.
Sorry, Luke, you there? I do apologize, man, but it's just cutting out really badly. Yeah, cool. You were saying Wonderboy's got a different style. Who did you score it for?
It was a close fight. Not one to say, but it was what Woodley, definitely did the damage at the end. Wonderboy kind of played his role, so I don't know. It wasn't. It just sucks that it didn't come out to be, what we be.
Well, we imagine.
I'm really happy for anybody.
We imagine you were obviously there to support your friend Khabib, and it must have been absolutely heart-wrenching when he was pulled from his fight with Tony Ferguson. What was your reaction to finding out the news?
It was rough. Obviously, I came out there for that reason, and the weight cut, it wasn't going very well. Khabib was complaining about a pain in his side, and we had to cut short the weight cut, and then sure enough, I guess it got worse overnight, and he had to go to the hospital. So, unfortunate. That was a fight I was really, looking forward to for Khabib, and it's been a long time working with that man, and I know he's put in the time and the effort, deserved it, and just sucks. So that's not much to say really.
Yeah, I mean, it was a major bummer, and we really feel bad for the guy. Just wondering, what do you think should be next for Khabib? I mean, a lot of people are wondering what the next fight is to make. Do you think you rebook this Tony Ferguson fight? What do you think?
I think what other choice do you have? Khabib he's undefeated, he's beaten everybody. He's done more than anybody. You can't take that fight away. You can't take the title away. It just needs to be rebooked. I don't any injury delays, so I think it should be rebooked as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is the fight that people have wanted to see for a really long time. And from what you understand, Khabib is happy to get in there as soon as possible, or do you think it may be a little while until we see him back in the octagon, possibly doing this rematch?
I don't think it should take much time. I think he's hungry. I think he's ready. And, it was from what I understand, he wasn't getting any blood to his liver. And from some kind of, something went wrong with the weight cut. It was, very similar to his last fight, from what I understand, and just something went wrong. You never know with these weight cuts, I guess. But I think he's ready to go. I think he can rebook that thing.
Because people are very, very critical of Khabib. There was that embedded where they're eating tiramisu, and I think a lot of people have a mixed understanding of how seriously he takes these weight cuts. I mean, you're someone that's been around him for many, many years. Can you clear that misconception up for us right now, for all the listeners at home? How seriously does Khabib take these weight cuts? And does, it was an embedded. Does he really go around eating desserts during fight week and, not stay on diet?
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I didn't even really watch the embedded. I don't know what controversy you're talking about, but he's rolling with Dan Leaf all week long, and I know Dan's got him on a very. He was ahead of schedule. Not sure how it went wrong, but I know he was following his diet.
And I think in that embedded, it's a bit deceitful because I think it's actually the Dagestani guys that are eating tiramisu. I'm not even sure if Khabib himself is eating it. But all right, let's talk about you, Luke. I mean, it's been a while since we spoke to you in November. Other than taking meetings in LA and obviously attending fights, what are some of the other things that you've been doing to keep busy? I mean, we saw you snuck down to Queensland around Australia Day for a cheeky surf. What was that like? What made you want to come down all the way to Australia?
I just was, I need to get a little trip and just kind of free myself. The injuries are tough, and, I usually push myself too hard when they start to get better, and I set myself back. And so I figured I'd get a travel in and just enjoy it, back and get to work. I had a payday out in Florida. I flew out to Bali, visited some friends, and off to Oz and visited Mick Fanning. My boy is his photographer, so good friend I grew up with. And so we just, we all have our company together, Grapes, and we just went on a little tour. I'd enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I mean, what a bunch of legends to catch up with. And of course, we couldn't catch up with you. We were busy. We appreciate that. No, we're kidding. It's okay. We understand you were busy. While you were down here, though, did you get a chance to get a meal in Attica? We know you missed out last time when you couldn't fight at UFC Melbourne.
Nah, didn't get my Attica in. We had plenty of good meals, but we're over on the Goldie most of the time, and so didn't quite make the venture to Melbourne.
What do you think of the Goldie? Do you like the Goldie? A lot of people have mixed feelings about the Goldie. I love the Goldie, but some people are like, I don't know how I feel about the Goldie.
I love it out in the Goldie. Good surf, and unfortunately the waves weren't as good. It would be nicer if they were, but just missed my window there. But I got a lot of friends out there, and it's just a good place. The weather was insane, and it's got a good culture to it. I like it.
I'd be up at the Gold Coast right now if I could. You mentioned before about training a little bit too hard when your injury starts getting better. I'm wondering, what we saw you were doing some training the other night in your Las Vegas hotel room with Henry Hooft actually while waiting for room service. What's that all about? Seems like you're obviously taking the opportunity to fit some training in. Almost looks like you're in fight camp. What's the deal? And are you sort of getting to that point again where you starting to train hard again? And I don't know, obviously risking that injury.
Yeah, I'm trying to work around and get better everywhere. Really, I'm always trying to keep my head in the game. It's an ACL injury, and it's that forward back motion. It's it was always the round kick. Every time I would throw the round kick and it wouldn't land, it would, the ACL would kind of contract and tear more. And so that's the one kick I haven't been kicking at all with my left leg, but otherwise, I can box and I can do other things. And so I've just been trying to stay busy, trying to stay sharp, sharpen up all my other tools and work around my left leg. That's obviously, I believe, one of my biggest weapons. So I know it's going to be there, but keep everything sharp other than that. And so I can, when my leg's cleared and I can kick and everything else is ready and I can just jump back in and fight.
And when we spoke to you back in November, you told us that you were trying to avoid surgery on your knee, hoping that it would heal naturally. Are you at the point in your recovery where you can completely rule out that ACL surgery?
I feel good about it. I feel good with the stem cells. I got those in, and it was working well for me last time. And so, I think the knee is, I don't have the pains like I used to, and, I'm still not ready to throw it, given the timeline the doctors gave me. So I'm just going to wait till the end of the month, and I'm going to start slowly testing this kick.
Yeah, I'm curious because a lot of people are sort of like, well, when's the timeline? When's Luke coming back? Obviously, a lot of people are excited to see you back in there. So if you're sort of waiting till the end of the month to test that kick, what kind of timeline do you think you're sort of roughly looking at to make it back into that octagon?
I mean, ideally, looking at the schedule, I think a July, international fight week is looking pretty ideal. So, that's what I'm looking at. It matters about the division too. We got some funny stuff happening, so it's unfortunate, and I'm just going to be looking for the right opponent when the time falls.
Do tell us, Luke, if you can elaborate. When you say funny stuff, what do you mean by that, and what would you say is unfortunate?
Unfortunate they took the route they took. I understand the business and I understand what they're doing, but I don't think they're really thinking ahead. And, making this fight, I think there's a lot of better options. rather than tying up the division and making this thing happen. I think I don't think Bisping's a draw. He hasn't proven to be a draw. So what's the point of putting GSP in there with him? A man that's obviously never fought at middleweight, been out for 3 years. I think him and Nick Diaz, I think him, Anderson Silva, I think there's a lot of other fights that make the money they need and then sells that without doing what they had to do.
A couple more questions on that matchup. I mean, first off, when you look at how this may play out, who in your mind do you think wins it? Do you think GSP beats Bisping like a lot of people think he will? Or do you think the size difference will give Bisping an advantage to pull this one off?
I think the size will be a big factor. GSP's obviously walking out a lot lower, and the style matchup, it's going to be, it's hard to see GSP winning this fight. And who knows what's going to happen.
The big deal here is, I just want to get your thoughts on this. There was some criticism when Dan Henderson got the fight against Michael Bisping. Some people said, hey, this doesn't make sense. This goes against the rankings. But people sort of swallowed it because Dan Henderson's a legend, blah, blah, blah. Now the division, once again, Yoel Romero and a lot of the other guys are passed up because GSP just jumps in there and has a middleweight title fight. And the big thing here is, we're just sort of talking about what could happen, but not many people believe if GSP wins this middleweight title, he'll actually defend it. Maybe many people believe this is just a way for him to get his first title and then work his way to a possible Conor McGregor fight or another welterweight title. So being in that middleweight division and being in a pivotal position to possibly win that title again, things being held up once again. How does that feel?
It's a tough pill to swallow. I don't know what to say right now. I'm not here to dance around. I'm not here to fight, chumps and just do my thing. I'm coming right back for the title, and seeing this play out the way it has, it's quite frustrating. I'm not going to lie. So I'm taking my time. I'm trying to be patient, take a breather, and think this thing through.
Do you think that if GSP fights Michael Bisping for the title, he at least owes to defend that title once in the division? If he has, now that he's jumped over everyone, never really fought a middleweight before, went all the way to the top of the rankings, got the shot, do you think he owes it to the division to at least give back and have one title defense?
He's not going to fight one of the top contenders. I guarantee that. He won't. And he won't fight one. He won't fight two, and he won't fight three. I guarantee it.
It's definitely it's sort of a tough pill to swallow. So knowing that, you mentioned how you're frustrated, but how do you block that out? How do you get around that? How do you mentally sort of forget about that fact and push it aside?
We sit, we wait, we talk, we negotiate, and we see what's next. That's the way the game works. It's about finding something that's going to make me happy right now.
What do you think?
I want to fight. I want to get to the title as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And then obviously we're a bit tied up at the moment.
Is there anyone that stands out to you? Obviously, there's a few. Pretty much everybody's tied up at the moment. You got Robert Whittaker and Jacare was the guy that you originally wanted. You've got Weidman and Mousasi. They're tied up. The only man at the moment that isn't tied up is Yoel Romero. Does any one of those guys stand out to you?
Yeah, of course. They all stand out. You never know what's going to happen when the division plays out, but, we're doing Yoel Romero, there better be a title on the line. So, there's no point to it. You're going to tie the belt up? Let's do an interim title. Or if I'm going to make that fight happen, I'd love to. But other than that, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Just quickly, because you did mention July, another sort of big fight. It won't be a fight that possibly gets you a title shot, but it looks like the title's going to be, tied up for ages. Is that fight against Anderson Silva? I know you were interested in it back in the day when times were a little bit different, and Anderson didn't really look himself in his last few fights. But are you still interested in possibly fighting him if he's free for sort of one of those big fun matchups in July?
You know what? It's funny you say that. I completely just lost hope with that fight. I was trying to pursue that one, and I wasn't getting confirmation on the other side. But if he, I would happily take that fight, and I'd love to get back in there with Anderson. So if that's a possibility, we will see. We will negotiate. We'll talk about it. So if he's into it, we'll see if he's up for it. I know he's, judging his mindset from his, talking after his last fight. I'm not sure what kind of fights he's looking for.
Yeah, I just got to ask you on that. That was a very sort of strange interview. It was hard to take. It almost sounded like he was going to retire for a moment. What did you make of that?
Yeah, it's exactly what I made of it. I don't know what to make of it. So it doesn't sound like he's, hunting down the biggest fights.
Yeah, it's certainly a crazy world in the middleweight division. Luke, we appreciate your time. We'll let you go in a second. On a fun note, we just want to get your thoughts on, this was a big victory for Australia. He's a guy that you may know a little bit because you fought down here. Dan Kelly, what did you think of, we'll finish up on this, what did you think of his big win against Rashad Evans this past weekend? I don't know if you were sitting ringside yet for that point in the main card, but what did you think? What did you think of his performance and big win?
I don't know what to think of that, man. He's not a fight style I particularly like. No offense, but it's it's a bit ugly, and it's hard to read. It's hard to score. So it's a weird fight.
All right, we'll fair enough. We appreciate your honesty. Just quickly, before we do let you go, Luke, the way you seem hungrier than ever. You seem very focused, almost like a fire's been lit inside you mentally. Does this mindset remind you of the same one you sort of had back in the day in Strikeforce, back before you ever held a world title and you sort of had so much to prove? Are you looking at yourself like that, Luke Rockhold?
No, I'd go to after losing to Vitor Belfort. It's the same situation I found myself back in. I got to build myself back up, whoop some ass, and take my title. So that's what I'm going to do.
If you come back, you get a good win, and you've got the title shot opportunity. But if Michael Bisping is not the champion, what do you do? Do you take that title shot, or do you take a detour and fight Michael Bisping and get that one back?
I'm taking a detour. I'm going straight for Bisping's ass. He's been running his mouth. He's been talking and avoiding every fight possible. That's the fight I would pursue. Shut him up. Move on. There's nothing more to be done. Bisping is running his mouth quite a bit, and getting upset of the year. I heard he's quite a stir in Las Vegas this weekend, being a drunk idiot, and running his mouth. So, guy's out of his mind. Thinking he expected what he was going to do, thinking he knew what he was going to do. I'll tell you what, when a guy going to do, how he reacts after a fight, you go watch our first fight. That's when a guy knows what he's going to do. Bisping knows he's a lucky son of a bitch, squeaking out of that fight the way he did, and he's going to run with it. So that's the fight. He thinks he didn't get lucky. He knows. Look at his face after the second fight. That's a sign of a lucky man, on the run.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see what's next for you, Luke. Again, we really appreciate your time. We understand that you didn't catch up with us when you came down to Australia last, but I think a dinner is well overdue if you're down here in Melbourne, and I think I know a restaurant that we could go to. Guys, make sure to follow Luke on Twitter at Luke Rockhold. And Luke, again, we're very, very excited to see what's next. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you in Melbourne.
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate the time. Have a good one.